The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
I don't have to tell any Toronto Blue Jays fan out there that this season has been a complete disaster. The 2024 Toronto Blue Jays have fallen so far below expectations because coming into this season, ownership and the president and the GM spent $220 million on this roster. That's ninth highest in Major League Baseball. And the expectations were playoffs. You know, you win a round, which the team hasn't done since 2016. The first year that this management group got here, they haven't won a playoff round since then. And the expectation was this year they'll do it. This year they're going to, at the very least, be in the playoffs. And once you get there, who knows what's going to happen. But this was supposed to be a contending team. And we sit here on June 24th. 2024, and the Toronto Blue Jays are 6.5 games out of the wild card. They are 14.5 games out of the 15.5, excuse me. That's even worse. 15.5 games out of the AL East, and they have just been swept in back-to-back series and have lost 6 games in a row. But that's not even the tip of the iceberg on what's gone on and how the Blue Jays have gotten to this point. So right now, I just want to run down some of the things that have gone wrong with this roster. Let's start at the very top with the guys you expect to perform well and perform consistently because they are young and they are your stars. Bo Bichette is now on the 10-day IL, and before he was put on the injured list, he was hitting .237. And this is a guy who over the last 3 seasons before this season was amongst the hits leaders in the entirety of Major League Baseball. He's been on fire in just getting hits consistently year after year. And this season, he's completely fallen off a cliff. And who knows how much of the injury has to do with that. But if you're in the lineup, you should be performing. And Bo Bichette hitting .237 is a disaster. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who, along with Bo Bichette, will be a UFA in the 2026 season. So at the end of the 2025 season. So at the end of next season, they will both be UFAs. And eventually they're going to need new contracts. Vladdy's going to need a new contract for next season. To just be specific about his situation, he will go into arbitration. The Blue Jays still own his rights next season. He won't be a UFA until the year after, but he still needs a new contract. And Vladdy right now is hopeful that the next contract is the giant one. The next one is the giant, 8-year extension, 6 years, couple $100 million. It sets him up forever to be a Blue Jay forever. And that's not on the table right now because Vladdy, who you want to be your power hitter, first baseman, he played a little third this year because of the way things have gone, but he's your power hitting first baseman. And to have 9 home runs at this point in the season and to have his ability to hit fastballs hard and for extra bases fall off a cliff as well. Early on, it was a lot worse. Lately, he's been getting better, but he hasn't been the Vladdy that you expect and you want to have long-term in this organization. Running down the list to the next thing. Alek Manoa. Alek Manoa this year was his comeback season after a disaster last year where he fought with management about being sent down because his performance was so abysmal that they had to send him to the minors to rehabilitate himself. He went away from the team for the last 2 months of the year. And this year, spring training comes. It's Manoa. He struggled in spring training. Sit him out for the entirety of spring training. He's got a little elbow inflammation. He's got an injury. Then we bring him back. Regular season. Okay, Manoa, not a great couple starts, not good. But then Alek Manoa, out of nowhere, is old Cy Young Alek Manoa again. And then what happens? He gets injured, and now he's on the DL for forever now till next season. Hopefully, Manoa comes back after having surgery on his arm, and he's done for a year and a bit. And that reclamation project where the Blue Jays say, hey, we didn't really go out and get really another stud reliever for this pitching rotation. The Atkins and Shapiro didn't go out and do that. They said, we're going to rehabilitate Manoa. He's gonna get back to the level where he was a Cy Young candidate. He's gonna get there again. He's still young. And he got there for like one start. And then he's out for a year and a half. What a complete fumble that is. And even when he was back and he was cooking, like, how much do you trust it? Because the starts before that were so abysmal. So the Manoa thing has been a disaster. Keeping down the list of things that have gone wrong this year for the Toronto Blue Jays. Next up, Elvis Martinez over the weekend. And we'll spend a little time here because this one is just it's so crazy how it unfolded. Martinez on Friday was called up for his first ever major league game. It's because Bichette is on the IL for 10 days. And you want to get the young guy who's your best, who's your number one hitting prospect in your system. And this is a Blue Jays farm system that lacks talent. It lacks high-end talent, but you have Elvis Martinez, and you say, okay, we're going to bring him up. He's going to be the spark plug for this offense that has struggled mightily for years now. Let's be honest, how much this offense has struggled. And we're going to call up Martinez, and he's going to be the spark plug. He gets his first major league hit on Friday. Takes a picture with his family. He's got the ball. He's happy. He's 22 years old. Your best hitting prospect. And what happens on Saturday? He's suspended for 80 games for taking PEDs. And the most egregious thing about how this thing unfolded and his positive test for steroids is that he got it because he was taking a fertility drug. And it was prescribed to him by a doctor in the Dominican. And he didn't tell the Blue Jays that he was on this fertility drug while he was taking it. He didn't tell them he started taking it. And if you Google, sorry, the mic's peeking a little. I'm sorry for everybody's ears. If you Google this fertility drug and you just look at the ingredients, this is like the simplest thing in the world. In there, in the ingredients, is the substance that he got banned for. I'm going to butcher this, but the performance enhancing substance, I'm going to make sure, it's clomifene. Clomifene, I believe is how you say it. Clomifene is an ingredient in the drug. You're not allowed to take that when you're playing in Major League Baseball. If you literally Google the ingredients of the fertility drug, it says it contains clomifene. The drug he was taking is called Region 50 is the fertility drug he was taking. And is he just he couldn't Google it? Your agent couldn't Google it? You couldn't just tell the Blue Jays and they could have told you, hey, don't take this because you're going to test positive? There's the amount of foresight there just to not. And then who's this doctor you're talking to in the Dominican who's like, yeah, you're a Major League Baseball player. I'm going to prescribe you Region 50 that contains a banned substance. It's just, what a fumble that is by Martinez. And I don't even, how much do you blame the Blue Jays on just this kid? Literally, he's 22. He's a kid just not taking his medication seriously. Because any serious person does their due diligence. And if I can Google it, you can Google it. And we can all see that there's a banned substance in this drug you're going to take. Wow. And then so the Blue Jays find that out on Saturday. And what can you do? You say you're disappointed in the player. He's out until the last week of the regular season. That's 80 games. There's 85 games, I believe, left in the Blue Jays schedule. So he'll be back with 5 games to go. And maybe I don't think he plays in the Major League Baseball. I don't think he plays in Major League Baseball at this point this season. Come back next season, spring training. Good luck. You got an opportunity here with Bichette out to make an impact on the lineup. It's crazy. It's crazy that this would happen to this kid. So that's something that happened with the Blue Jays while they're in the middle of the 6-game losing streak and they hit rock bottom. And I'll just run off the stats to close this thing on the disaster that this has been for the Toronto Blue Jays. They sit 27th in total home runs, 27th in total RBIs, 25th in slugging, 24th in ERA by their relievers. The starters have a 14. They're 14th in ERA. That's why I specified the relievers, who are 24th in total ERA, because I want to specify that the relief pitching has been a disaster. Second in home runs allowed. Only one team in Major League Baseball has allowed more home runs than the Blue Jays pitchers. They are 23rd in opponents' batting average. Oh my goodness. And just to cap things, not a single player with 50 at-bats in a Blue Jays uniform this year is hitting above 280. I'm shocked, but I'm also not shocked. What are your thoughts on where the Blue Jays are at right now? Because I'm like, sell everything. A month and a bit change from now. I think end of July. So that's about a month and change from now. The MLB trade deadline is happening, and if I'm Mark Shapiro, if I'm Ross Atkins, the two brain trusts that run this organization, this thing, I get you made your Rogers Center upgrades. We walked into a brand new the second half of the upgrades. We walked into the stadium this year. I've seen it. I've been there. It's damn impressive. Sell the thing. Sell everybody. They don't have it. They don't have it at all. Like it's time. I don't think a new coach fixes it, but fire John Schneider. Yeah, please do that. You gotta take a step back with this roster here. It's not a rebuild, it's a retool. George Springer, who's escaped the list of things wrong. You haven't escaped it just yet. He escaped the main list. Here's the side list. George Springer, lowest OPS amongst qualified hitters in all of Major League Baseball. Lowest OPS. George Springer. That's a man who, for the next 2 years, is going to make $22 million. And for a long time in this lineup, he's hitting leadoff. He's got the lowest OPS. I'm at a loss for words with this team, with this squad, because the expectation, it's not like they were supposed to be bad. So you go into the trade deadline, you have a couple weeks here to still evaluate, but when's it turning around? It's not at this point. You know what you have, and barring a miracle, this team misses the playoffs this year, and missing the playoffs is unacceptable for the expectations that were put on this team. So we're gonna keep on this. We're gonna keep watching the Jays, and we're gonna see if the miracle happens. Right now, I think it's the last of the run for Atkins and Shapiro. And if you're them, I guess you don't want to trade everything at the trade deadline because that's your job, your admission that you were wrong. And I think people in those positions, GMs and presidents, often don't ever want to admit they're wrong. But if they're looking for the long-term health of this team, you sell off some pieces at the trade deadline that you can, you retool, and you move forward. If you're upper management, if you are Rogers, you look at, hey, how do we move on from this management core that has only failed and hasn't won a playoff series since 2016? How do we move on from them? Because it's been a disaster. Game 7 tonight. Oilers, Panthers. I'm gonna be coming with a video after that game. I'll probably drop it like just when the game ends. It'll be talking about the history of it, like, because the whole reason this podcast exists is talk about, like, where does, if the Panthers collapse, where does that rank on the all-time sports list of greatest collapses? Like, that's the whole reason I got a microphone in front of me to talk about topics like that. And so I'm jacked up to do that video after the game. If the collapse happens, and if it doesn't happen, I think I'll still come to you with something. It won't be exactly that. It'll probably be along the same lines. Maybe just a what if. Where would it have ranked? Because I'm so excited to compare it to the Red Sox, to the Atlanta Falcons and the Patriots, the Red Sox, the Yankees, and all the other disaster collapses that have happened in pro sports. So that's coming to you later tonight. I am so happy to be back. Thank you for being here. It could be anywhere in the world. It shows be watching or listening to this right now, and I appreciate you for that. Hit like on this video if you really liked it. Hit subscribe, and I will see you later.
And that is how it's done.
The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Jesse Blake, the guy that likes to hear his name twice in one sentence. Sure, I know him. No, he doesn't have an ego at all.